Hey there, good evening, folks. This is Zooper. Playing some Diablo 4. My Necromancer here is still level 45 because I hopped on to the there we go. Hopped onto a hardcore character and hardcore character died. So, you know. It happens. I'll worry about it later. But figured this would be a acceptable opportunity. Actually, hold on a second. I'm going to turn down the sound. Negative 40. It should be okay. What was I thinking about? Right, I figured this would be a good opportunity to talk about my overall opinions of the game. And I think I can open with the game is better than I thought it was going to be. Oh, that is still too loud. Hold on. Bring it down to like 20. Okay, that should be better. Oh, now it's not coming up at all. Oh no. Hold on, wait. There we go. Whoops, that didn't do it. So, a couple of things. Oh, that's not pleasant. 4th of July is in a couple weeks, dude. Oh, maybe not a couple weeks. Next week. Anyway. Trying to stay on target. There we go. I figure I'll go in order. I'm gonna go in the appropriate order. The good, the bad, the ugly. So what's good about the game? The overall appearance of the game is pretty good. Aesthetics. Oh. Sorry, I never noticed that there were Lilith statues right here. conquer the stronghold, so I'll just do that. So, the sound design, the music, cinematics, basically everything to do with the aesthetic of this game is on target. It's exactly what it needs to be, and I like that. Gameplay is fairly smooth, although I have my gripes with it. So, character's responsive. If you're playing on controller like I am, targeting can be a little interesting sometimes. Usually it does what I want it to do. Don't feel like I'm fighting the controls. There we go. The enemy design is usually pretty good. You know, I especially like the design of the fallen enemies, because I think in Diablo 3 the fallen kind of were abandoned. Very boring. But in D4, you know, each of the fallen has like each of the fallen types. So fallen, carvers, vile ones, etc. Each have their own thing that they do, which is interesting, makes them very unique. Same with the Cosres, actually, the goat demon things. Very heavily differentiated from each other with different abilities on the shamans. Makes them very interesting. Helps differentiate each zone, which is good. I was a bit surprised that they went for 2 desert zones. Though maybe the dry steppes aren't really a desert. Feel like a desert to me. Because pretty much all the zones look pretty different from each other. Fractured Peaks looks different from the dry steppes. Well, Kyrgyzstan, really. Hawazar looks different from the other. Skosklan looks very interesting. Very important, valuable things to do. One of the main detractors of Dark Souls 2 is that some of the zones just don't look different enough, or they're in weird spots. You don't really get that vibe in D4, although you could argue that the distance is unrealistic, but I'm not going to argue that. It's a video game, it's fine. Hello. The whole stagger mechanic is a little odd for me. I have played Lost Ark. I do know what a stagger mechanic is. This doesn't particularly feel like Lost Ark stagger mechanic, where it's, well, Guardian raids are a bit like this, but not really most other raids. There we go, nice and easy. And I'm drifting off into a whole bunch of other things. Let's spend this point real quick before I keep babbling. Rather have like some sort of direct combat benefit. I don't have a bone spell equipped. Are you technically a darkness skill right now? You are a darkness skill. There we are. But yeah, so the good things about this game is it's a beautiful game. It's well constructed, plays smoothly. Then we get into the bad. And I obviously haven't hit level 50 yet because my characters that are closest to level 50 either got distracted like this one or were hardcore and died like my barbarian. So but from what I've seen, looks like some influence was pulled from Path of Exile, which is fine. It's good to look at what other people are doing and mimic or replicate what's good, discard what is bad. But what I find odd about this game is it looked at like Path of Exile level damage increasers and odd mechanics and stuff and said, okay, those are all nice, but you know what would make it nicer? And I was like, no, what would make it nicer? What would make it nicer is if it was all conditional. If that makes sense. You know, it's like, oh hey, find, I don't know, critical damage. But then it's like, no, it has to be critical damage against vulnerable. It has to be slowed or immobilized or whatever. Just confusing to me. And there was a video I saw where a fellow had taken a character at a very late game, was doing billions of damage, and that's a bit ridiculous, but I guess you could turn off damage numbers at that point, I suppose. If it bothers you that much. So, what I find bad is that you're kind of trapped into going for the legendary powers. And they can be applied to rares, but it's usually not worth it. That way. Maybe this is more accurate under the ugly section, where it's just things that I'm not sure I like or don't like, I guess. I didn't like the leveling experience, which is very unfortunate. So, like, basically, like 1 to 30, 35, give or take. Yeah, one to some number that was in the double digits was kind of annoying. Well, not kind of annoying, it was very annoying. What do you do? Bone Storm. It'll be fine. Then the other thing I don't like is actually this, where, I don't like item power, I guess is my point. Which I think is an odd point for me to have, because I'm fine with item power in other games. Fine with item power in, say, Final Fantasy XIV or World of Warcraft. The idea of, bigger, badder item levels. Well, that was fun. But, I do have an idea of what the endgame looks like. Someone who I play with is actually at the endgame in hardcore. One of the first 1,000 people to hit level 100 in hardcore, actually. And he was describing to me how the item tier system works. And what I was thinking to myself was, more or less, I signed up to play Diablo, not Diablo Online. Diablo the MMO. I was half expecting him to start explaining the multi-party raids to me or something, which basically the world bosses are. And I don't know, I was kind of disappointed. Really. I think that's the best way to phrase it. was talking to me about how, the end game consists of doing these nightmare dungeons, which are dungeons with special modifiers and like maps and Path of Exile. And all I could think was, I comprehend what you're saying, but I don't think I like it. You know what I mean? I understand I should be pushing for I comprehend how it's hypothetically a good thing, an endless thing. Don't worry about it. He just like catches on fire or something, it doesn't matter. So essentially my brother told me, he's like, he's the one with the level 100 character, he's like, start hitting like level 50, level 60, level 70, and your build will coalesce and come together. And everything will be nice. And, I kind of had to take his word for it. As these things go. But as I played the game, I find myself with, frankly, less and less interest in continuing to play the game. I think that's the best way to phrase it. So now I'm at an impasse, and this brings me to the things I find ugly about the game. I'm not sure if I like them or not. I think the biggest one is actually the skill cap. So what I mean by skill cap is, if I just take my hands off my controller, move my mouse, I'm still limited to 6 abilities. Well, maybe you think that's fine. 6 abilities are fine. Don't need more than 6 abilities. Why would you need more than 6 abilities? Okay. Sure. Maybe you don't. Oh, what the heck? Oh, right, Advi. Thank you. Teleport this way. But I'd like to have more than 6 abilities sometimes. I think is the best way to phrase it. When I was running around on my barbarian, I found myself really wishing I could have all 3 shouts. I found myself with a similar issue in Diablo 3, but Diablo 3 was a significantly easier game in comparison. So you didn't really need all of your abilities most of the time. by the time that any of this was a serious issue, you know, you had some set bonus that would actually restrict you to a certain set of abilities, and it wouldn't matter. But here, you know, you'll get an item that's like, you know, +1 to all defensive skills, and you're like, oh, but I can't use all my defensive skills, even if I want to. What if I only want 1 point in one skill and, you know, 3 points in another, and that's what I want to use, and I want to swap between them? Game doesn't allow for that, which is kind of unfortunate. Now, I do comprehend that the reason the game doesn't allow for, say, more than... Come on, teleport, thank you. Oh, darn. Hold on. Let's get that chest. Oh, okay. Alright, there we go. So where was that? Right, the desire to use lots of abilities. And I think if I just bring up the ability screen, I think that might help illustrate my issue a little bit more. So when you open this up, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 active skill categories. Except you might not actually want to use an ultimate ability, or maybe you don't want to use one of these corpse abilities, or maybe you don't want to use one of these curses, or maybe you don't want to use something over here, or maybe you don't even want to use a core skill. But because the game feels designed to guide you down a certain path, you're actually kind of stuck. You know, you have to have a core skill. You have to have one of these, probably. I got away with not using a curse for a while, and so on and so forth. But my issue is you can only have one. And as I pointed out with the Barbarian, I wanted all the shouts. Right, I wanted both shouts. I wanted the Berserker buff. I wanted some other damage source. I wanted, you know, I wanted the movement ability. I wanted the ultimate ability. Just everything. And, you know, eventually I found a build that worked. But at that point, I think what it is even though I'm not fighting the controls, I think what I ended up battling is the system itself. Oh, and this guy's just dumb. And that's that. So I find the stats to work with a bit awkward. And I think part of the reason why the stats to work with are so awkward is actually the item power itself. You know, like, okay, well, maybe you have 10%, 20%, some other ridiculous number towards some specific mechanic that you're attempting to use. But then you get an item drop, and it's like, oh, hey, you know, here's a DPS increase. But is it really a DPS increase? Yeah, just is what it is, I guess. Let's just move this character over to Karagar. So I think the next time I do a D4 video will be when I actually hit level 100 at the highest level, whenever I do that, because I'm going to be playing very slowly. I have other games I'm going to be playing, other games I like playing more, to be honest. So I'm probably only going to pick this up when someone goes, oh, hey, you should pick up D4. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. After this character hits 100, maybe when the proper season system starts, which is like 2 or 3 months from now, I'll play another character and see how it goes. In any case, thanks for sticking around. This concludes my Diablo 4 Necromancer series, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye now.